If you are trying to find how to make financial services more personal with Agentforce, you have come to the right room. Really excited to have you guys all here today. Thanks for being here. You know, as your technology partner, one of the things we really hope to do while you're here at Connections is bring people together to learn, to connect with each other, but really to also engage in thoughtful conversation. And I think this is one of the most important conversations because we're going to talk a lot about how an agentic future will impact the business. My name's Kathy Lanning. I've been at Salesforce 4.5 years, and I am honored to actually serve as the leader of financial services growth and go-to-market team. We're all industry executives, so we've sat in chairs really similar to yours. We understand how to take vision all the way through to value. We understand how technology investments can actually change how decisions and work and outcomes are made in your organizations. Excited to be here with you today. Before we jump in, we do have a disclosure. And if there's any room that understands disclosures, it's this one. We love that as an industry, right? This is ours. We're going to talk a lot about generally available software, but towards the end, I'm going to show you the roadmap. So this just says, please make all purchasing decisions based off of generally available software. Let's jump in. What should you expect today? We're going to talk about how marketers actually have a really, really challenging role today. Understanding how to drive personalization at scale with the right data, and how do we augment human labor with digital labor. We're going to show you how the platform works to support that. We're going to talk about Financial Services Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Data Cloud, and Tableau, our analytics platform. The piece I am most excited about is actually our customer interview. Kathy Lynn Coker is a friend of mine. I met her actually probably my second week here at Salesforce about 4.5 years ago. She leads the marketing and sales technology strategy team at Lincoln Financial. They are an example of best practices. And she's going to talk a little bit about what they're doing in their organization and where she sees their agentic future. It's going to be a great session. All right, let's jump in. So I have the opportunity to work broadly across the industry with banks, insurance carriers, brokers, wealth firms. And in that work, we see a couple of gaps in capabilities. And as I go through this, if you find that these gaps in capabilities are familiar, just know that you are not alone. What we will often see in the marketplace is that there's duplicate outreaches to prospects. And a lot of times this is because there's different lines of business that might have similar information, but they might have different information. When it comes to customers, we actually see the same issue. Customers are the only ones, if you think about it, that can work through a marketing, sales, and service experience all in the same darn day. And a lot of times that's an issue driven by lack of visibility, right? Lack of visibility to what's happening in other organizations and what that customer needs because of maybe stale data. So it's old. At one time it was true, but it is not today, or trapped data. This is a knowledge industry, which means we live in data abundance. But that does not mean that that data is available. That does not mean that that data is available at all times through the organization, so it can be activated. Now, the challenge is that the customer expectations are really high, right? So these expectations come from out of category. And what customers want, sure, timely, relevant, you should actually read real time. They want real-time outreach that is end-to-end seamless experiences across channels, and it's consistent. And that's what hyper-personalization means. And in fact, they want that consistency so much, they want you to actually be able to anticipate them across all those channels so that you're solving their problems before they actually happen. And you know what? They don't really care how hard that is. This room knows better than most how hard and difficult that is. This is some interesting data from the State of Marketing 2024 study. And what it says is that for an average journey for a customer, it'll take a marketer 9 tactics. The customer will engage in that journey across over 8 channels, and that 48% of that work is actually manual. Here's a statistic not on that page. Loyal customers, customers who would tell you that they're loyal to their firm, will often say that with one bad experience, 1 in 3 will leave you. So this is why it's important. So we ask, what if? What if agentic AI made your workforce more connected, made the experiences more consistent, and made it easier to execute? So let's talk about what that solution could look like. We believe it's an end-to-end experience engine. We believe that this engine takes context from the context from wherever the conversation starts in the organization, so that marketers can be efficient, effective, and relevant, so that they can move from content creation to orchestration to one-to-one personalization with ease and speed that drives the right outcome. And what underpins that is the data chain. This is the ability to take data from across the organization and outside the organization. So imagine first-party and third-party data, structured and unstructured data, PDFs, call logs, to create an operational profile. And I use the word operational profile intentionally. It does organize that information around your customer so you can activate it, not just find interesting analytics with it. You can activate it so that you can have intelligent orchestration of journeys, so that you can have relevancy across the channels, and so you can optimize insights and drive deeper engagement. And this is what helps you monetize those insights. So this helps make marketers' jobs a little bit easier. And it allows marketers to do what marketers do best, which is to innovate with confidence. Because once you have this end-to-end data and the experience engine with the data value chain, you're able to actually run tests. You can be agile in the market. You can optimize with ease. Now imagine, what if this wasn't just a tool for marketers? Imagine the operational advantage if this data chain was able to be available for sales and service, complaints and claims, underwriting and product development. And that's what competitive advantage looks like, because it unlocks the ability for everyone to understand what the customer experience is and meet them where they are in the moment. Okay, help is on the way. So this summer, actually next week, we're going to launch Agentforce for financial services. And what this is a series of pre-built agentic templates. They're built for the industry, where it understands the workflows in the organization, as well as what the roles of the humans are. At the same time, we have Agentforce for Marketing Cloud, also pre-built templates, like campaign creation. So it allows you to create campaigns, automate journeys, as well as optimize based off of engagement. This is the definition of humans working with agents. The agents are taking that manual labor so that humans can focus on what matters most, which is human care. All right, we're gonna see this in action, and specifically look for that campaign creation template when my friend Kelly Etley and Bree come up to demonstrate. Thank you.
Well, hello, Chicago. It is fantastic to be here with you early in the morning on the first day of Connections. And I'm going to start with trying to create some vision here. What if every campaign you launched, before you even hit the send button, was already connected to your bankers in the branch, or your insurance agent in their office, or maybe your service reps in the contact center? Your entire organization would be working in sync to deliver relevant and consistent messaging across every step of the customer journey. Does that sound like a vision that we would all love to have? I think so. So that is what we're going to show you today. And it all starts with our deeply unified platform. Salesforce is not just a collection of great marketing tools. It's a platform that connects your entire business and centers it around the customer. And it's not just a generic platform. It's built for financial services with industry-specific data, business processes, as well as compliance embedded from the ground up. And today, we're going to show you our new Agentforce templates. Kathy talked about the campaign template. That's the one I'm going to show you today. And we're going to see how marketers are going to be able to think beyond just achieving simple productivity gains, and instead work with a digital colleague that's trusted and creative, and that's Agentforce. So we're going to introduce the star of this show here. Meet Molly. She's a marketing manager at Cumulus Bank, And she is very focused right now on driving engagement with a new online financial planning tool that the bank just launched. The great news, customers are engaging it, they're using it, and they love it. However, financial services providers like Cumulus Bank oftentimes have trouble with taking raw customer data and translating it into needs and action. So Molly's going to show you today how we're going to change that with Agentforce. And we're going to start not on Molly's marketing page. That is a tongue twister. We are going to start not on Molly's page. We're going to start on the banker's view. What you're seeing here is the customer financial profile. The operational profile is, I think, what Kathy called it. This is out of the box in Financial Services Cloud, and this is where a banker spends their time managing their customer relationships. Now, I want you to look in the center of the page there. This is our out-of-the-box goals planning application in Financial Services Cloud, and it's connected to that online experience. And we can see that this customer that we're looking at is, in fact, tracking their goals. They're saving, for a house and their wedding. Oftentimes, information like this gets trapped in the system that sales is using, and no one else ever sees it, the light of day of that kind of information. With our unified platform, we make it available to service, to marketing, whoever would benefit from having a deeper understanding of customers' needs, with the proper perms, of course. Now, what do you think is going to happen when we need to switch to Molly's view? Do you think we're going to need to log into another application? Absolutely not. That's the power of a unified platform. With one click, we're going to switch and pivot to Molly's view. And Molly's view is in the same application, the same data, it's just a different lens. And she has these beautiful Tableau dashboards that are putting data in her flow of work, and she can understand how her campaigns are performing or how engagement is trending. And engagement is really top of mind. She's got customers using that financial planning tool, and she wants to engage them further. And that's where Agentforce comes into play, and we're going to see that new campaign creation template at work. Molly's going to focus on a campaign that offers the customers engaged with that financial planning tool to take advantage of the bank's data aggregation services. And all she has to do in natural language is describe the campaign that she wants to create. Now, Agentforce is going to get to work. It's thinking, it's planning, it's reasoning, and most importantly, it's taking action. It's going to create the campaign for Molly, and when it does, it gives her a little bit of information. It tells her what the focus is, what the goals of that campaign are, even the tone of voice recommendations that she might want to think about using. And this is fantastic, but Molly kind of wants to check Agentforce's work here. And it's really easy to do. There's a View Campaign button where she can quickly go to the campaign that Agentforce just created for her. This is the Connected Finances campaign flow. And you'll be able to see that Agentforce has created some structure here. There's a cadence of emails and texts and even content suggestions that Molly can either take and use as is, or she can easily modify them with our point-and-click declarative tools. This is really showing you how Agentforce is going to help marketers move from idea to execution faster. So this campaign is looking pretty good here, but we're missing a really important part, and that is the audience. Agentforce knows data. So Molly is going to go ahead and ask Agentforce to help her out with the segmentation. So again, with natural language, all she has to do is describe it. Our Agentforce template goes to work. It's interpreting what she's asking, and it goes ahead and creates that initial targeted list for her. And the really cool thing that it does here is it shows her the filters that it applied. It's showing Molly its work. And there's a really important filter there talking about opt-outs for security and privacy. So that's some of that compliance that's built into the platform. So what about now? She's got a starting point, but she needs to refine it. Does she have to go into another tool? No, she's just gonna ask Agentforce to do that for her. And this time she's gonna look for customers that have their primary checking with Cumulus Bank and are not already using that aggregation service. Agentforce is able to narrow that down for her, and she's got a really high quality audience that's ready to activate. It's fantastic. She was able to do all of that without calling the data analyst or getting in line with IT to write a line of code. What used to take multiple systems and multiple teams now happens in one place. So that's fantastic. Molly launches her campaign and it's live. The customer has the offer in their inbox. But the experience does not stop there just because Molly's work was done. What would happen if that customer walked into a bank branch right now and said, hey, I got that offer? Hopefully they wouldn't hear crickets saying, well, what offer are you talking about? So let's take a look. We're gonna go back to that banker's view where we started. And this time, the banker has some new information. If we zoom in on that activity timeline, marketing is transparent. The banker can understand what campaign Molly was a part of. They understand what she clicked on, how much information she may have about that campaign. This is going to make the banker at ease because they're not coming in cold and no awkward conversations there. But think about that customer experience. It feels super connected. Why? Because behind the scenes, it actually is. That is the power of our unified platform. So with that, I am going to welcome my good friend, Brett Nelson, up to the stage, and he's going to take you into Molly's next part of the journey here.
Thank you, Kelly. And so what you just witnessed is the power of the unified platform in creating segments, creating campaigns and segments, leveraging real-time data across your organization to grow those segments. But as you all know, this is not a set it and forget it activity. But this is the point in the process where the real work begins and can often lead to frustration between sales and marketing teams. So who here hears complaints on a daily basis that the leads are weak or the leads are soft? Any hands? Okay, well, good news. We're here to change that. Let's let's see how Salesforce is empowering our marketers with the insights and data they need to understand the levers that they can pull in order to improve campaign performance and refine segmentation. So here, jumping into the marketer's homepage that Kelly walked you through before, we have interactive dashboards that allow you to drill in deep to your data to optimize campaign performance. Historically, you would have done this with static reports or analyst requests. Here, we can use natural language to drill into the data with the Tableau semantic layer in Data Cloud. We can use, when we launch our agent, we can use natural language to drill into this data. But we're not just pulling data from the marketing group. We're pulling data across your organization, including FSC objects. And so here, we visualize and understand campaigns, but visualizations are just a part of the process. It's identifying that the campaign we created earlier needs a little tweak based on its performance. And so here, as the agent runs, it renders a response. And so here we could see that we can even optimize this campaign and set targets based on CPE and customer engagement. Awesome. So as this agent runs and provides a response, here we can see, we can even set targets based on CPE and performance. We can even pause those ads later. Awesome, we're setting those goals. So now what we've done is we've provided real-time insights to allow marketers to optimize campaigns, which we are making segments smarter and campaigns smarter and segments sharper. And so sounds great from a marketing standpoint, right? So let's jump into a lead powered by FSC on the unified platform. And so here is where we've been providing support for frontline sales and service team members for nearly 8 years, with 29 releases packed with innovation. And as Kelly showed you earlier on the person account, here we have that same robust information, all driven by the unified customer profile. We have information like real-time customer contact information, we have lead score, we have engagement and response insights. But this lead object was built with data for action. We can also take steps like create interest tags based on categories and preferences on customer information. We can also take action like, if we zoom out a little bit, we can set appointments in the top left there. We can also leverage tools like sales engagement to take automated steps to follow up on this lead engagement. And so what you're seeing here is the power of the unified platform. And so what's the real world impact of all this? Let's go back to the slide. So we've identified that a 5% lift in qualified leads per campaign could generate nearly $4 million in annual revenue. And so what we've done is this has allowed us to close the gap between insights and impact, between marketing and the front line, and has allows your organizations to focus on what matters most to them, the customer. And so I'd like to welcome Kathy back onto the stage to introduce you our guest speaker.
I mentioned earlier that we have a real treat with Kathy Lynn Coker from Lincoln Financial Group with us today to talk a little bit about what they're doing. Thank you. Yes, welcome, Kathy. So, Kathy, let's do a little introduction. And at the same time, if you don't mind just starting with, we've been talking about personalization. Brett just walked us through the business outcomes that it can drive. Can you also talk a little bit about how are you driving personalization? What results are you seeing at Lincoln Financial?
Yeah, so I work at Lincoln Financial. In my area, we support the B2B agents. So our wholesalers go to the financial professionals. So we have that B2B2C relationship. So we are driving a known audience of financial professionals, and we're trying to get them to talk about Lincoln when they talk to their customers. So that's an interesting play. So it's not the direct to consumer. So we're really going as an intermediary. And sometimes we're like multiple levels of an intermediary, which makes this interesting to do personalization because you need to talk to them about what they're interested in for their clients. So you not just have to know who they are, right? I mean, we support the Eagles, right? So we always assume that you're gonna do a big personalization and you're gonna care about the Eagles, but you might not, right? So we have to start thinking about what does it look like for you as a financial professional, but then how does that translate to tell the story to the end consumer?
Yeah.
So we have to talk to them in a way they feel empowered, but also talk to them so that they can retell our story to their clients, which makes this interesting.
Yeah, you're anticipating two people, right? Your advisor and then also what their clients need. Extra complex and a little bit different than what you saw today.
Right.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about AI then. These are the early days of AI. I think we would all agree that there's a long, bright future ahead, but we like to start with the end in mind. Yeah. So, how capable do you think AI will become in your organization?
So, I mean, we're a 120-year-old insurance company, so we're going to be a little slower to adopt some of the AI because we're naturally conservative, like most people in this room. Yep. But where I really see is as you think about that lead, as you think about that 5%, right? That 5% move that Brett just talked about, if we can think about how AI gets us, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% better every day and how we can use this, I actually think that we become more capable if we make our compliance, legal, brand, all of those folks more capable. Yeah. You're not going to get to personalization if you have a single person reviewing all of your compliance for everything, right? Because AI allows us to be more personal. AI should allow us to, what we would have done in 4 segments, maybe we do it in 15, and we're really getting down to that niche person and the niche comment, you can't have your compliance officers still having to review every single iteration of those 15. So I think if we can figure out how to get AI, loaded with our brand standards, loaded with our compliance rules, loaded with the privacy rules, that you could then say, all right, it's taken the first pass. Maybe you do a red, yellow, green.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like yet, but that's sort of where my head is. If we get them really comfortable with that, then we can go, right? Because we'll be able to support that from the back end.
Yeah. I really appreciate that you brought the compliance officer into this conversation, because I bet if we did a show of hands, everyone was feeling that, yes, yes. And so, actually I was talking with a big bank, I think this is an interesting insight, that was actually saying, hey, how are we actually changing the workforce and transformation? They said they do education sessions, the technology team, on AI with legal compliance in a stand-up once a week, and they've been doing it for a year to help bring them along on that journey. So I think it's really interesting how you're facing it too.
We've been definitely bringing in our privacy team, having the conversations, but also hearing what they're hearing, right? So we've also gotten our privacy officer to come in and give us a lowdown, this is what's happening in Arizona, this is what's happening in California, this is how it's going to change your landscape, which gives us a different insight rather than just being why you always tell us no.
Yeah.
So that engagement's really helpful.
Yeah. Early day hurdles, right?
Yes.
We're going to get through it. Well, we started to actually talk about the workforce through this conversation, and today you guys saw one of the major themes was around digital labor and how it will transform work. From your perspective, how quickly do you see AI transforming work?
I think that's a tough one, right? So there's part of me that says it's doing it already.
Yes.
Right, it's already happening. I mean, I don't know, did you guys see the headline that Google is looking at offering packages to their SEO and their ads, right? That's gonna change our life. We were just talking this morning, and it's how do writers write things so that when it is AI summarized, that it still conveys the same message that you were trying to convey? Who goes to Google now and searches something and your first thing isn't an AI summary?
Yeah.
How do you get to the AI summary, and or even text messages? I got one yesterday where it had summarized this long message that my girlfriend sent, and I read the summary quick, and I was like, that's nothing she would say. Right? This doesn't make sense to me. And then I opened up the actual text, and that's what got me thinking, because I was because I knew her, I knew that wasn't what she would say. But as a brand, you don't know me yet to know that I wouldn't say that.
Yes.
So how, when things are summarized in your emails, in your journeys, in anything else, and that's where I'm that's already changing, and we just may not be adopting it yet.
Yes. Yeah, the world is changing so fast around us. I like
Right.
your point, though, of it's already here, right? It's already transforming work. So
if you're not thinking about it, if you're not thinking of your next move, you're already behind.
yeah.
So it's already transforming. I'm super excited to see. I love what you guys just showed up here. So I can't wait to see how we can incorporate that.
Love it. I'm going to pivot a little bit. Can we talk
Yeah.
about data next?
Yes.
So data is the fuel. It's the fuel for personalization. It's the fuel for experience. It's the fuel for context, as we've talked about. How are you guys actually activating your data and getting the most out of those insights, but at the same time, we also talked about this, keeping an eye towards and balancing governance and compliance?
So we've been on a 3-year data journey. We are still in the middle of it, but we started consolidating our data. We started bringing in single sources of truth.
Yeah.
We've recently purchased Tableau Cloud. We've got Financial Services Cloud. We don't have Data Cloud because when we started this 3-year journey, Data Cloud wasn't what it is. When you're talking about how things are transforming,
Yeah.
Data Cloud wasn't really on our radar because it wasn't doing what it's doing today.
Yes.
So now it's a conversation. What does it look like? What happens? But we are starting to really be able to activate on that data. This journey takes a lot longer than you think. Legacy systems, old platforms, how do you integrate it? How do you get it? I think the other conversation is you guys mentioned some real time, near time, all of that stuff.
Yep.
There's another conversation of what has to be real time. What should you be doing overnight? And remembering that you still have to do that. but the activation on the data is the key, which is really one of the things that we're considering as we're looking at Tableau, is because of that integration, because you can put vizzes right into Salesforce, because you can take actions right there, along with the marketing data, bringing that back in. So we haven't connected that as closely as we wanted to, because the time to get the other data up hasn't, capacity. Everybody's got a capacity, and you have to prioritize, and because you can run it over here, we haven't completely connected it. It's on our roadmap. It's one of the things that we're working towards. But the activation of journeys with segments, the activations for our sales teams, that's really critical.
Yeah.
And how do you onboard new, like your first-time producer to Lincoln? How do you make them feel important? How do you make them feel welcome? What if they haven't produced in 5 years? Is that a first time, or is it not? Like, where do you get that?
How do you get that persistency?
How do you get the persistency? How do you get them back? How do you make sure that we're talking about, not just one ticket, but the next one? When do you activate on a cross sell?
Yeah.
Like, how many times do you buy something and you're like, you guys are selling me? Just like even in the regular world, you're selling me something and my shipment hasn't arrived, right? Like, what are you doing? So how do we make sure we're not that person?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, also maintaining the fact that, like you talked about, Amazon and Netflix have changed the world of what people expect from us.
Yes.
And then how do you balance that with privacy concerns, right? So I want you to know everything about me, but when you ask me if I want you to track cookies, you say no. Like, tell me, how does that work? Like, you can't have everything personalized and then say, don't track me.
Yes.
So, so we're balancing, and those are all the conversations that we're having every single day.
Yeah. I love the use cases you brought in there too, because it actually leads us to our next question, because you talked a lot about what is the experience that the data foundations that you've said are enabling. They were core use cases to your business, right? For sales as well as marketing and that handshake. When you think about AI in those use cases, how do you think AI is going to shape that experience?
So one of the things that I'm playing with in my head, and I don't even know if this is the right thing to be thinking about, but you spend a lot of time like in FSC or in any of your Salesforce orgs, and you're like curating these perfect pages for your wholesalers, right? Like, what does that perfect profile look like? What if that perfect profile is now just search? What if it looks like Google when you came to the page?
Yeah.
What if instead of being like a home page that's curated, that all these people do this, that you just had an agent and you just said, what did you want to do today? Tell me like my people to call. What if my team didn't have to spend all of this, like, is this the perfect widget to put on the page? What if you still have to have them, but in the background you could just say, you have to surface it. You still have to be able to surface the viz, or you have to be able to surface the other tools. But what if your homepage wasn't? Sometimes they look messy.
Yeah.
So what if your homepage just was an agent and you just said, what did you want to do today?
Right. And it met you where you were in the moment.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Or like as a sales guy, right? What if I'm walking out of an office and, how many sales guys are in the room? Maybe not that many here, but do you like to enter your activities? Like, let's be real. Who wants to enter their activity in Salesforce? Nobody. How do I make this easier for you? How does the agent do that for you? Because the more timely activities you enter in the system, the better my marketing can be.
That's right.
The better my recommendations can be. So how do I make those jobs easy? My husband's a sales guy, and our biggest fights are about Salesforce. Because like, I just don't show him anything anymore. Because he's like, don't put that. Like, I don't want to. That's too much work for me. And I'm like, this is my job. Why can't you support me on this? But when you think about it like that, how do you make those things easier? How do I make emails that like your sales guy sends out that look like a serial killer? Right? Because they copy and pasted from 20 different magazines or 20 different emails to create their thing. How do I let them write that and then put it in my format so that it's better, right?
Yes.
How many emails have you seen where somebody goes in and like copies this and then they're like, oh, I need disclosure. So they copy this from another email and they put it in there. And I'm like, you could have at least like highlighted, change the font to be all the same color, same size, but instead you copied from 7 different like, how do I make that easy for my sales teams?
That's right.
So that it has the professional polish of what a marketer would do, but it's in their tone and voice, and it's easy for them.
And think about the efficiency they gain when they have those tools, right? That's the manual labor we were talking about earlier.
Well, and so I want my sales guys doing revenue-generating activities.
That's right.
Not manual tasks. Like,
yeah.
And so how do we get that? How do we make that easy for them to still do those follow-up activities, to do all of the things that they need to do, but it doesn't need to take their brain power, right? Let them do tasks that they're really good at.
Yeah. I feel like I just heard your first horizon of your test with Agentic AI.
So.
Did I hear? Well, hey, as we wrap this up, Kathy Lynn, and thank you so much for this, let's pull out our crystal balls. Let's look ahead. I think 3 years is a really long time horizon to look forward. So let's just say 2 years, right? As you look ahead 2 years, where do you see AI impacting your business?
I think it's going to impact everything. I think kind of going back to that, like, what does the Google search look like? How do you become relevant? How do you make sure that, I think it's going to impact customer experiences, what they expect from us. Like you were talking about that operational profile. I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
They're going to expect us to know that they called the customer service desk this morning.
Yep.
They're going to expect their financial professional to know. And how are we as a business going to alert that financial professional that their customer called in? And then our wholesaler, if there was a problem, right? Like, how are we bringing this all? And I think it's more the expectations.
Yeah.
There's so many things that people do with AI now that you used to use Google, or like way back in my day, you used an encyclopedia. But like all of this information just is so easy, but it has to be consumable.
That's right.
And I think that's the biggest challenge for all of us is how do you make it consumable? How do you make it relevant?
Yeah.
It's the same challenge, it just becomes incrementally bigger and faster.
And when things are easier, that's when adoption starts, and that's where value begins.
Right.
Kathy Lynn, it has been an amazing joy to have you on stage. Thank you for bringing your energy. Thank you for bringing your insights. Everybody, please join me in thanking Kathy Lynn.
Thank you
so much. All right, team, as we wrap up here, I have 2 things I wanted to share with you, and these are look ahead. These are roadmap items, so I think you might want to take a peek at them. The first thing you're going to see here is the Process Compliance Navigator. And actually, you saw a little bit about this in action in some of these demos. But at its core, there's 3 big things here. Embedding compliance into every interaction so you can remove the manual labor. These are tasks like opt-outs and TCPA. The second thing is so you can move from reactive to proactive. You're no longer just documenting controls in your processes. You actually have them embedded in front, mid, and back office. And these are controls that you understand and the agent can understand in these workflows. And the third thing to remember about this launch is that it demonstrates compliance. This is a regulated industry. And so the ability to have full traceability and auditability, not just manual reporting, is really critical. The last thing I wanted to share with you is our FSC for Agentforce product innovation roadmap. Now, next week, actually, we're launching this, right? So this is 1 week out. We launched FSC, our industry cloud, in 2016, and we've had 28 releases since then. So this is what constant innovation looks like. And I think this slide does a really excellent job of showing you, when I said earlier, how you have pre-built componentry for agents that align with industry workflows and roles. There's 10 agents that are coming out next week. You can kind of start to see them here looking forward. The 2 of my favorites that I think this room might be most interested in, one is insurance brokerage. So this is unifying front, mid, and back office with core common workflow componentry so that agents can be put to work with all of that kind of gap work that we know happens within a brokerage operation. So for example, for a marketer, the ability to know that a renewal is coming, have all the context from sales, and to be able to activate on that. The other one I want to call out here is the banking service assistant. So think about a CSR and think about the ability for a CSR not just to see the operational profile. So when did someone click on an email, open it up, watch the video, click through to the site, or take an action? but then the ability for the agent to consume that information and in the moment guide the CSR through decisions and through questions that enrich and personalize that experience. Imagine the consistency you can bring to the operations, and the agent is there to do that. This is what innovation looks like. This is what digital labor looks like, and it keeps on coming. All right, let's keep this conversation going. There's some QR codes here for some of the studies and the research that we reference throughout. So take a look at these. Be sure you check them out. They're data-rich, proof-point-rich, and something I think you can all use within your organizations. I'm going to pause for a minute so everybody can get it with their phones. All right. You guys got it? Perfect. And the second thing I'm going to leave you with is make sure you hit the keynote. This is going to be a really special keynote. It's right after this. Head on upstairs. It's the keynote room on level 3. So be sure you check this out. We're going to go deeper into a lot of the themes that you heard about today. All right, this whole audience, or for the whole audience, all of the presenters will be stage side, so feel free to come down and ask us questions. I want to thank all of you for being an amazing audience. Thanks for the energy. Don't be strangers. Thank you so much.